All right, and joining me today is Chris the Problem Duncan, who fights Charlie Campbell at Contender Series 2. That fight is on August 2nd. So, Chris, I want to start here. I noticed when we were setting up this interview, you told me that you're in Florida. I see all over your social media now that you've moved to American Top Team for this fight camp. What sort of prompted that move to start working more intimately with them?
Well, I was here 2 years ago prior to COVID, so that was going to be my baseline training camp anyway. Now that COVID is pretty much done, I've been able to travel without a visa. Just travel to America on an ESTA, do my training camp, and then I'll be going home next week to go to my visa application, and then that means I can then work in the US.
So obviously that means a bunch of moving around kind of right before fight time, right? This interview is happening for those who are listening towards the beginning of July. Is that tricky for you in sort of ironing out the details of your weight cut and like final preparations for your opponent, all that kind of stuff?
Nah, not really. The only thing that will be a problem is jet lag, but I'll probably arrive in Vegas maybe 5 to 7 days before. That's plenty of time to rest and recover. And I'm pretty anal when it comes to like nutrition and things like that. So like everything's down. And bro, I've been through all these setbacks from day one, so like it's no different. I was meant to go home last week for the visa, and 2 weeks ago get the visa and then come back out here and do my training camp, but doesn't phase me. I'm used to this shit happening to me all the time. I don't know if you know about my last time I had a shot in the Contender Series. That was an absolute shit show in itself. So I'm used to this stuff now, man. Nothing can beat me. I'm bulletproof now.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about that too, because technically, while this is going to be your second shot at the Contender Series, you've actually gone through 3 fight weeks already, right? Because you go through the fight week with Manuel Gaksha, you go through the fight week with Slava Claus, and now you're going through the fight week with Charlie Campbell. What is that like for you, being that you've gone through this exact same thing so many times?
I think that this will be an advantage for me, being there, the familiarity of the kind of the pre-shoots and stuff like that. It's all going to fall in my favor, and I'm a different fighter since being in that loss in the Contender Series. I learned a lot about myself, about weight cuts and how my body will react to weight cuts and what to do and what not to do. So sounds a bit cliche, but you always learn from a loss, and I certainly have, and I'm a different fighter. And I'm a nobody just now, but when I'm down in that training room, there's a lot of coaches looking at me thinking, fucking hell, this guy knows what he's doing. So and it's very comforting, and it's also an ego booster. I'm a momentum fighter. I like to fight consistently, and like there's not very many people give you in this gym anyway, give you props for doing well against top level welterweights, top level lightweights. So that's what I'm doing here, and it feels good that the coaches are giving me credit and they want to be a part of my training camp. So some big things to come this year for myself.
That's awesome to hear. Now you mentioned in there too that you had some things that you learned about yourself, especially in terms of like nutrition and getting your body ready for the fight. Do you feel like that played a big factor into the results your first time on the Contender Series?
Oh yeah, 100%. But there's no point dwelling on what I should have done and what I shouldn't have done. That's the sport that we live in, and that's life. I think the biggest honest truth you tell yourself, like there's no point in me blaming. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done the weight cut. That's why I lost the fight. There was a lot of stuff that went on. I had a newborn baby at home. I had the weight cuts. My coach had to leave middle of my kind of training camp when I was over in Vegas. There was a lot of things went on, but this is all superficial, like same as COVID. When I arrived in the airport to come to Vegas, I nearly didn't get on the flight because my coach didn't have a visa, and they thought he was going to go over there for work, but he had an ESTA and he was allowed to travel because he was part of my team. But these are all outside stuff that people don't think about, and this time around there's going to be nothing that can phase me. So I just need to be level-headed and take things in the best saying I like for it is piss with the cock you've got. So you just got to deal with it. And I'm used to it now. MMA has thrown so many hurdles. This time around, I'm just going to be plain faced. I'm going to go in there and do my job and come home and see my family.
Well, that's great to hear. Now, I want to ask too about preparation for a fighter too, because obviously you spent all of those weeks planning for Manuel Gacha. You wind up fighting Slava Claus, a guy who's got a very similar thing he wants to do. He wants to knock people out. He's a striker, but a very different style, right? Like you completely change styles. What's it been like this time, knowing kind of what you've got coming to you with Charlie Campbell for this whole fight camp, being able to game plan, being able to trust your coaches, all that kind of stuff? How much easier does that make the whole fight week on you?
I don't think that's probably what was wrong with me last time. I was trying to game plan for everything, whereas when I got into the fight, things weren't working. My jab wasn't working as well as I thought it would, and he was countering my jab, and I wasn't slipping the jab, and I wasn't making him pay. So I think the biggest part of this camp has been to be able to adjust on the spot. And the good thing is, we do 2 rounds with like 2 people, or we do 2 rounds with 1 person, and then we move on to 2 rounds with able to change styles mid-fight is very important. And I think that's going to be the biggest impact that's been on my training camp, because I'm a control freak. I like things to go in my favour, and I like things like I write everything down. I write all my diets. I write all my food. I write all my weights each week in fight camp. So in that sense, I've been a little bit of a control freak, and that is probably one of the reasons why I lost the last fight as well, because I thought I was going to be A, B, and C, whereas it went A and then it went to C. So it was like, so this time around, I'm going to have an open mind, and I'm just going to be able to move, and I'm going to anticipate loads of different things. Like everybody's like, oh, he's a striker. I reckon this guy's going to probably shoot on me at some point, because he'll feel my power, and he'll not want to be in the mix.
Well, and I want to take something back to where you were talking about your training there, and mixing up your training partners so often, and how that's been a real big help to you. I'm curious, there are tons of names we know from American Top Team. Are there a couple of guys you've sort of leaned on to sort of help hone your skills for this fight, particularly?
Not particularly, no. There's a lot of guys that have been here to help. Like I said, a lot of guys have taken a little bit of a shine to me. I've been training with like top 10 guys. I've been training with Grant Dawson. I've been training with Roman. I don't know his second name. He fights in Bellator. He's 6-0. He had a couple of flying knee knockouts. I've been doing some training with Renan Moicano. Like all the guys here, it's just like, it's not like you get to choose or whatever. These guys are all in the room, and it's just been an absolute pleasure to work with these guys and learn and realize I'm actually supposed to be here. Like obviously everybody's got their strengths and everybody's got their weaknesses, but it's really reassuring to know that these guys are actually here to help me. They're not here to try and hurt me. And the biggest learning curve I learned over here was I trained too bloody hard. Like everybody's like, relax, like tomorrow's sparring, like why are you fucking running 5 miles? And I'm like, yeah, I know. But the thing is, like back home when I was in Scotland, the level of training wasn't the same. So I would be able to go and do my wrestling rounds and then go for a run and feel no different on my body. Whereas here, I'm doing 5 rounds with absolute killers and then trying to go for a 5 mile run, and then my body's just shutting down. So recovery has been a massive thing here, and I still work full time. I don't. This isn't my full time job yet, unfortunately, but I've been able to stretch at night. I've been able to sauna at night. I've been able to ice bath at night. I've been getting between 8 and 10 hours sleep. So on a Sunday, I've been getting 12. Mm-hmm. So that's a massive thing for me, especially because like I have a daughter at home that needs taken care of. So this time around, the stars are going to align, and I'm going to get my contract. I promise you that.
Well, let's get a prediction then. I always like having a prediction in these things. So when you fight Charlie Campbell on Contender Series 2, how do you get it done, and what is going to earn that contract?
I don't know, man. I just don't know. In the past, I've been like, yeah, I'm going to knock him out. I don't know. I feel like if I over visualize things now, it's going to be a problem when it comes to fight time. So expect an exciting fight. Expect me heading for the finish at 24/7. Like, don't blink. That's all I'd. Like some of the guys that even said to me today is like, when we watch you spar, it's like pay-per-view rounds. So like, I'm sparring with top 10 guys and all these guys in this gym, and they're like I'm a nobody. Like they think I'm a nobody, and well, I presume myself as a nobody, but they're like, man, you're good. Where are you from? And it's really good to hear. So I can't really give you a prediction. I will win, and I will get my contract, and that's how I see it going.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. This has been Chris Duncan, who fights Charlie Campbell at Contender Series 2, that fight on August 2nd. Chris, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem, brother. Anytime you need an interview, you hit me up.